men to beat him up as he assaulted him. Obinna's secret was revealed. The men discovered he was wearing a fake foam bra and realized that he was actually a man. The chief's anger intensified. Being homosexual was something despised and met with hostility in their society. It started like this. In the small village of Gold Coast, there lived a young boy named Obinna. At 8 years old, Obinna wasn't like the other boys in his neighborhood. He had a beautiful face that seemed almost sculpted, a face that attracted all eyes wherever he went. And it wasn't just his looks that set him apart, it was his love for makeup. He would often slip into his mother's dressing table, experimenting with her lipstick and brushes. His little hands applied the red lipstick with a precision that would surprise even a professional makeup artist. Makeup was his comfort, his escape from the world. His parents, Mr. and Mrs. Ez, were far too busy to notice the emotional needs of their only child. Mr. Ez was a strict and authoritarian father who believed that academic excellence was the only way to success. He had been raised in a harsh environment, disciplined mercilessly by his own father, which he believed had shaped him into the successful engineer he had become. To him, Obinna was destined to follow the same path, and he did not take attention to his academic performance, determined that his son would surpass all his classmates. The weight of his father's expectations weighed heavily on Obinna. Every day he was reminded that he had to surpass his classmates, whom his father considered his enemies. As a young child, Obinna received severe punishment from his father, who would hit him in the face and body if he dared to fail his homework or exams. The constant pressure and beatings turned the school into a battlefield where Obinna struggled. Not only to succeed, but to survive in a world where failure meant pain. Obinna turned to the one thing that brought him comfort, makeup. Since his early years. Whenever his father's beatings left marks on his face, Obinna's body was rushing towards her mother's makeup bag, using foundation to hide the bruises, applying blush and color to his cheeks, and finishing with his favorite red lipstick. He loved the feeling it gave him of feeling beautiful, powerful, in control of something. At the time, his mother, who had caught him wearing makeup once or twice, paid little attention to it. She was too busy with the multi-million-dollar business her husband had set up for her, a business for which she felt indebted to her. Never argued, Mr. Ez never intervened, and simply hoped that Obinna would overcome what she saw as a childish phase. One day, while Mrs. Ngozi was chatting with her friend in the living room, Obinna walked past her, his face carefully made up with lipstick, bursting that he loved so much. Her friend was shocked. "Don't you see your son, Mrs. Ngozi?" brushed the question aside with a laugh. "It's just child's play, he'll get tired of it." But her friend warned her, "You should stop this before it becomes something else, Mom." Ngozi sighed. "I do not really have a say when it comes to Obinna. I was just a poor girl who married into a rich family. I don't want to do anything that might bring my husband's wrath on me. Who am I to intervene?" She tried to change the subject, steering the conversation back to business. So Obinna continued to live his life in a quiet corner of his own world. His father, Mr. Ez, was only concerned about his son's academic performance, and Obinna worked tirelessly to meet his father's expectations. Even though the fear of failure haunted him, the boy was not pampered despite the family's wealth. He did the household chores, did the shopping, and always tried to do more to get some semblance of approval. The only place he found refuge was in his makeup, which his father knew nothing about. But Obinna was being watched. Mr. Musa, a man who lived in the next street, had been watching him for a while. Mesmerized by his beautiful face, he watched from his window as Obinna passed by on his daily errands, waiting for his one weekend. When Obinna's parents were home, Mr. Ez sent him on an errand. On the way, Obinna lost the money. He had been given. Panic seized him, and he began to cry. Mr. Musa, who was watching him, saw his chance. He called Obinna, offered him a glass of milk to calm him down. Mr. Musa asked Obinna why he was crying, and Obinna told him everything. How was he so afraid to come in at home? Because his father would punish him mercilessly for losing the money. Mr. Musa quickly comforted Obinna, promising to give him back the lost money, but on one condition: as the drug began to take effect, weakening his muscles. Mr. Musa's face changed, revealing his true intentions. He took advantage of Obinna, bent him over, and did the unthinkable. What happened that day was too horrible for an 8-year-old to understand. When he was done, he handed Obinna the promised money, telling him not to tell anyone of their little secret. Obinna went home crying in the dark, unable to talk to his parents, who were not his friends, but distant figures imposing their rules and expectations. He cried all night, and this marked the first assault Obinna suffered of his short life. The trauma of that day added to the already growing pain in his young heart. With no one to turn to, no one who would understand or even care. Obinna's behavior became erratic at school. He became aggressive, attacking his classmates, seeing them as the enemies. His father had once told him about in a fit of storm. He broke another student's head during a fight. He was expelled, labeled a problem child. When the school reported the incident to his father, Mr. Ease flew into a rage. He harshly reprimanded Obinna, vowing to teach him discipline the hard way. He decided to send Obinna to his strict aunt in the village, a woman known for her rigid methods. Obinna was to remain there until it was corrected and would not be allowed to return until he had been properly disciplined. His aunt was cruel and her daughters were no better. She made fun of Obinna, forced him to do all the farm chores. He was the one who sold their goods at market under the scorching sun every day, and sadly they often forgot to leave food for Obinna before he came back from market, forcing him to drink gari every day and sleep hungry in the cassava barn. They called it discipline. One day when Obinna was returning from the market, 3 men hanging around a building under construction called out to him. "Why is your face so beautiful?" they mocked. They ordered Obinna not to shout or make noise, or they would kill him in this abandoned building, and no one would ever know what happened. These men were homosexual, and they decided to abuse Obinna once again, while one of them stood guard outside to make sure that no one approached the others. Purple one by one, when they were done, they gave him money as if it could make up for what he had done to him. Tears ran down Obinna's cheeks as he used the money to buy some food, slowly and painfully realizing that it was the first time in years that he had eaten so well. The pain and suffering became too much for Obinna. One day he took the money he had saved from his uncle and ran away from the village, hoping to return home to end his suffering. But when he arrived, his father was furious to see him back. "You are not supposed to be here," shouted. Mr. Ease especially, not before 2 years. He ordered his son to return immediately to the village and not to show his face at home until he had completed his time in the village with his aunt. His helpless mother watched in silence, tortured by pain, knowing that there was nothing she could do to intervene. Her fear of her husband's anger kept her mute. But the next day, Obinna pretended to leave for the village, but instead he ran away this time with no place to go. He began to sleep on the side of the road, surviving on scraps. It was then that Lady Ogechi, a woman who ran a small parlor nearby, found him. She took pity on the young boy, offering him food and shelter in exchange. Obinna worked in her parlor, sweeping, running errands, and eventually doing what he loved best, makeup. But every night in Lady Ogechi's house, Obinna noticed that she latter went out late at night, while he was sleeping, and came back the next day with a lot of money. He wondered where she always went. Soon Lady Ogechi began to look at Obinna, insistently thinking how handsome he was and how she could profit from it. She decided to condition him to follow her to the brothel, where she worked at night so that he could work for her. There she always collected money from the rich men and gay and offered Obinna to them, telling him to behave before locking him in a room with the men. These men abused Obinna again and again, still devouring him from behind, while Lady Ogechi took all the money, paying him with only food. Soon it became unbearable for Obinna. He felt used, trapped. He had no good clothes to bring or anything else, knowing that he was being exploited. He found the courage to start taking money personally from the men. This sent Lady Ogechi into a rage. She lamented, crying over Obinna's betrayal. After all she claimed to have done for him, she then threw him out of her house, hoping for the blow of men. She had put them in contact with no place to go. Obinna found himself in another brothel. He implored the women there to let him stay with her, and they agreed on condition that he brought money for the brothel. This marked the beginning of Obinna's new life as a prostitute. In this brothel, surrounded by people who had also known suffering, Obinna found a semblance of peace. He dreamed of being able to save enough money to one day open his own makeup store, a place where he could be himself without fear. He clung to that dream with all the hope left in his young heart, believing that one day he could leave behind the shadows of his past and embark on a future where his talent and not his pain would define him for years to come. Passed, and Obinna began to assume his identity in broad daylight. He grew up in the brothel and was fully identified as a woman. He accompanied the girls and stood at the side of the road where drunken men stopped at night to frequent the girls. Because he was so handsome, his drunken, intoxicated men mistook him for a woman. When they arrived at the hotel, he gave them one condition: that they go straight to the point and enter him from behind. He did not allow them to touch him or to do any form of foreplay with him in order to prevent them from discovering that he was not really a woman. And if anyone refused, he would walk away, giving them their money back. As these men were drunk and did not realize that they were deceived, and he was not in company of a woman, but of a man, and so he always complied with her demands.
Thank you so much for staying tuned until now. If you haven't subscribed, please do well to press on the subscription button, and also do well to press on the notification bell so you are aware when next I'll be posting my next story. And until next time, bye bye.